Su Fei, it's just a dream in his daily life. I didn't expect the dream to play with him really. Martial arts, cultivation, fantasy, and various bizarre worlds. Fortunately, in his dream, he possessed a special ability. Then everything becomes interesting. To be a good person, one should not strive to be superior to others, but one must be more natural and unrestrained. How about doing things? Then you have to be more carefree, just be as carefree. Keywords of the novel. Dreams of heaven, my ability to save without pop-ups. Dreams of heaven, my ability to save complete TXT collection download. Dreams of heaven, my ability to save the latest chapter reading. Chapter 1. Su Fei. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 1. Su Fei. At 7:30 in the morning, Su Fei, who couldn't sleep, woke up early. Dragging his tired body, he lazily opened the door of the mobile phone repair shop. He thought that so early, there shouldn't be many customers coming to his door. Just lay the recliner flat and close your eyes to rest. But who would have thought that I finally felt a little drowsy, but was awakened by the noisy sound outside the door. Xiao Fei, Xiao Fei. Xiao Fei, where have you been? Listening to the rough voice, Su Fei knew who the newcomer was. His close friend, Pan Hao, was a classmate in middle and high school. Shout what? Shout what? Shouting so loudly in the early morning, you're calling your soul. Following the sound, Pan Hao noticed Su Fei sleeping on the lounge chair. Quickly walking over, he took out a fruit phone from his pocket and pressed it tightly against his face. Take a look, the phone I fixed a few days ago can't be opened. Looking at Pan Hao in a hurry, Su Fei lazily reached out his hand and took his fruit phone. I pressed the power button a few times but there was no response. Just hold down the volume up button and the power button simultaneously. Directly perform a forced restart. Buzz buzz, the fruit phone vibrated twice. Isn't that great? After returning it to Pan Hao, Su Fei turned over again, closed his eyes, and continued to rest. Hey, that's really great. Pan Hao watched as the screen of the fruit phone lit up and immediately entered the system, starting to operate it in a daze. After playing for a few minutes, I finally went to observe Su Fei, who had been dozing on the lounge chair. Watching him half dead, he kicked the lounge chair hard with his foot. Hello, what did you do last night? Look at you now. Pan Hao gestured on his eye bags with his hand. Pointing at Su Fei's dark bags under his eyes, he continued, did you catch a ghost or did some little sister squeeze you out? Upon hearing these words, Su Fei waved his hand and drove away, saying, go, go. Little sister, I'm still a virgin. Yo, Pan Hao's expression was exaggerated, and he said with a strange and sinister tone, you won't be single for a long time. Do you really think you're a pure young man? Oh, how do you remember someone in high school and who they were with? Spending the spring festival together. Upon hearing his close friend Pan Hao reveal his true identity, Su Fei also had no mood to sleep. Suddenly sat up and stared at him blankly. What kind of gaze is that? Dad, was what I said wrong? Su Fei has been in a bad mood these days and doesn't want to argue with him. Pause for a moment unconsciously, he lowered his head and asked softly with a hazy expression in his eyes, Brother Hao, do you believe in Su Hui? Pan Hao looked at Su Fei as if something was wrong. Approaching him closely, his eyes carefully observed him and said, are you a demon? Huan Su Hui. Why don't you say reincarnation? Upon hearing the four words reincarnation and rebirth, Su Fei's eyes couldn't help but sparkle and he spoke. I had a dream a few days ago, it was so real. Pan Hao jokingly said, what dream, spring dream? How real is it? Su Fei seemed to have not heard Pan Hao's words and continued, I dreamt of myself, reborn back to the 1980s. Upon hearing these words, Pan Haoduan became interested. A stool that had been pulled over the corner sat down and looked at Su Fei excitedly. I'm interested in this. Can you tell me what your dream looks like? Returning to the 1980s, you were in the ups and downs of your official career, and eventually held a high position and great power. Or did you go into business and ultimately create your own financial empire? Upon hearing this, Su Fei looked at Pan Hao with a dull expression on his face. No way, don't tell me, you didn't do anything in your dream. Su Fei nodded and said, do you think you're watching TV dramas? After being reborn, can one freely reach the pinnacle of life? Imagination is beautiful, but reality is bony. I don't know anything, I don't know which period to buy lottery tickets, I don't know what time to compete, and I don't understand stocks either. Pan Hao suddenly said, where's singing? Can't even the scribe Gong do it. Su Fei looked at Pan Hao as if he were a fool, and roast, don't you forget that I don't have 5 tones. Also, who can still remember the lyrics while singing? Pan Hao was taken aback by Su Fei's explanation. Nodding, he agreed, yes, the scenes in novels and TV dramas are just for fun. Salted fish is salted fish, it won't turn over just because you start over again. What did you do in your dream? Su Fei let out a deep sigh and continued, with a little understanding of electronic products, I can assemble and sell some electronic products such as beepers and mobile phones. I barely have some savings. Then I took out a loan to buy a few houses, rented them out, and waited for the appreciation. Pan Hao chuckled and said, Mr. Bao. That can also be considered a pinnacle of life. What about the rest? Didn't you do anything else? Su Fei couldn't help but smile at the corner of his mouth, with a happy expression on his face. He replied softly, I'm married, she treats me well, and I really like her. Our lives may be dull, but they are very happy. Looking at Su Fei's happy expression, Pan Hao had a lewd smile on his face and said humbly, are you still saying it's not a spring dream? Married a daughter. Law, it's not like it's happening every day, having a happy sex life. Su Fei looked at Pan Hao, who was constantly getting closer to him, and his lewd expression made him so angry that he kicked him. Sigh, I can't hit it, ha ha ha. After Pan Hao dodged, he happily left Su Fei's phone repair shop. Watching his distant background, Su Fei became silent. Actually, what he just said was not a dream, but the truth. For days ago, Su Fei was really asleep, dreaming back to the 1980s. Having spent a beautiful period of time. After waking up from the dream, everything seemed to have never happened again. If it weren't for Su Fei, he would still have the skills he learned in his dreams. He really thought he had just had a dream. And, during the conversation with Pan Hao just now, Su Fei didn't mention anything. His ultimate achievement is not just a simple job as a renter. In the southern market of Daxia country, Huaqiang North has set up a small underground stall, known for its exquisite imitation technology. In his dream, Su Fei had a special ability that he named Ability Archive. Anything that he can complete once is equivalent to permanent mastery. For example, Su Fei used to recite ancient poems like this. First read the ancient poem, Compassionate to the Farmers, and feel like he remembered it. Buckle the book, close your eyes, and recite. What is the day of hoeing? Open your eyes, flip the book over to take a look, and silently recite in your mouth. The day of hoeing is noon. Buckle the book again, close your eyes, and recite. On the day of hoeing, it's noon. On the day of hoeing, it's noon. Sweat drops, who else is there? Open your eyes and take a second look, silently reciting. On the day of hoeing, sweat drips under the soil. Close your eyes, then go back. It took a lot of time and effort to memorize an ancient poem in its entirety. But with the ability to save, everything is different. First read the ancient poem once, then read it quickly a few times. Immediately close the book, close your eyes, and recite the poem in your mouth. I'm carrying it on my back. Under normal circumstances, this type of poem that is forcibly memorized through brief memory will be quickly forgotten. But Su Fei has a special ability. Ability archive. As long as he memorizes it once, his ability to recite this poem is saved and will never be forgotten. Also, Su Fei bought a bunch of parts to imitate a certain electronic product. He has failed countless times, and if he succeeds once, it will be equivalent to mastering the ability to replicate this electronic product. That's why Su Fei is able to thrive in the Huiqiangbai market. Because of Su Fei, he possesses exceptional learning and imitation abilities. Things like electronic circuit diagrams and computer programming, Su Fei became proficient as soon as he learned them. Copying various electronic products is as simple as building blocks. New book, please correct it a lot. End of this chapter. Chapter 2. Mantis catches cicadas. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 2. Mantis catches cicadas. Continue to nap on the lounge chair. A repair shop where there are usually not many customers coming to visit every day. This morning, for some reason, guests came one after another. Buying charging cables and headphones are not big business. It seems like they just don't want Su Fei to rest. I'm so annoyed. Sitting back in front of the counter, I turned on my computer and started playing games. Bored. Towards noon, a decent customer finally arrived. Boss, I forgot the power on password for my phone. Turn your gaze away from the game interface and look up. A man standing in front of the counter, wearing a duckbill hat, a mask on his face, and dressed in a submachine suit, appeared at some point. Show me. Reached out and took the phone he wanted to unlock. Su Fei looked around and said that the national brand phone is still 90% new, with a market valuation of at least 7,000 yuan or more. I changed the password 1 second ago, but I forgot it the next second. Look at what kind of brain I have. I only bought this phone a few days ago and it cost me several thousand, but it feels a bit worthless to use. Su Fei fiddled with his phone while listening to customers constantly nagging. In fact, he could tell at a glance that this phone was not his. Speaking of so many things that are not available, isn't it because I'm afraid of Su Fei and suspect that this phone isn't mine? Unlock your phone. How can there be so much nonsense? The more explanation, the more it proves that he is guilty. Was it picked up or stolen? I can't say for sure. Su Fei couldn't control himself and interrupted his explanation, saying directly, "Unlock 200. 200. The male customer exclaimed in surprise, "Why is it so expensive?" Su Fei didn't talk nonsense and patted the phone he was about to unlock on the table, saying, "This phone is worth over 7,000 yuan, and unlocking it costs this price." As soon as he heard the price of his phone, the man patted the table and immediately decided, "Then you can unlock it." Su Fei smiled and was now more certain that the phone had come from an incorrect source. "About half an hour, are you waiting here or will you come and pick it up later?" The male customer picked up a nearby stool and sat directly next to Su Fei. To observe the unlocking process. "You do it, I'll wait here." Su Fei smiled and said in his heart, "What if I'm afraid I'll steal your phone? You're looking so tight, sitting so close, can you understand my operation?" Ignoring him, Su Fei became busy on his own. First, close the computer game interface, and then open the editing box. His hands were dancing on the keyboard, and he wanted to make a temporary phone unlocking tool. Watching various codes jumping on the computer screen, the customers watching on the side had expressions that were momentarily stunned. Phone unlocking, unless through legitimate channels. Most other methods involve reinstalling the system to replace the entire system lock. And Su Fei needs to edit a program to bypass the system lock and directly enter the system interface. This unlocking method has a huge flaw. That means the phone system cannot be restarted. Once the phone is restarted and the system is reactivated, the previously bypassed unlock program will reappear. Su Fei's actions were certainly intentional. Because he was interested in this phone, which is a big brand, with excellent appearance and high configuration, it is very suitable to replace the old antique in his hand. Program editing completed. Su Fei turned off his phone and connected it to the computer with a data cable. At the same time as running the program, also turn on the phone. Looking at the phone screen, I indeed bypassed the unlocking process and entered the system interface, saying, "Alright. So fast." Su Fei said it would take half an hour, but in fact, it only took a dozen or so minutes from the beginning to the end. Excitedly, the man took his phone and said, "You've earned so much money." Su Fei watched as he kept playing with his phone and said with a smile, "Do you feel like you can do it yourself?" The man quickly waved his hand and said, "No, no, no, this is all brainwork. I understand from your previous operation that unlocking is really not easy. 200 yuan, not expensive." Speaking, he took out 2 red tickets from his pocket and patted them on the table. Without much nonsense, he turned around and left directly. Humph! Su Fei looked at his distant figure, his lips slightly raised, and he snorted twice. When he walked away, he whispered to himself, "Don't slide the hook, big fish." It has been proven that Su Fei is being overly concerned. I thought it would take a few days for big fish to turn around. I didn't expect that evening, during dinner, he would come knocking on the door again. "Boss, what's going on?" As soon as he entered the door, the male customer who had unlocked his phone shouted at Su Fei, "I unlocked my phone at noon, but it was locked again at night." Su Fei put down his hand to grab the cake and rubbed his oily hands on his pants before taking the phone he handed over. Dotting left and sliding right, he said mysteriously, "Oh my. How did this happen?" Listening to Su Fei's tone of voice, the customer thought something serious had happened and immediately asked anxiously, "What's the problem?" Placed the phone on the table. Su Fei calmly picked up his hand again to grab the cake, took a hard bite, and slowly chewed it in his mouth. "Can't you wait until later to eat?" Even if the customer said so, Su Fei did not put down his hand to grab the cake. He muttered, "Your situation is quite troublesome. There are 2 locks in the phone. One is the startup screen lock, and the other is the system account lock. Your situation is that the system account lock has been locked." Su Fei pushed his phone in front of him with his elbow and continued. "It's quite easy to solve it. Just send a text message to authenticate it." Actually, Su Fei deliberately said that, knowing he couldn't do it. How can he achieve SMS authentication if his phone is not his own? Sure enough, the customer frowned slightly and said with a serious expression, "So I won't spend these 200 yuan in vain. Can you also unlock the system account lock?" Upon hearing this, Su Fei smiled slightly and said lightly, "Of course. The price is a bit expensive, and the time is also a bit long. However, I have a better suggestion." Su Fei threw away the pancake in his hand, stood up, and said to him, "Why don't you just sell your phone to me? Anyway, as you mentioned before, you're not satisfied with this phone." As soon as Su Fei spoke, the other person grabbed the phone on the table and put it back in their pocket. Before he spoke, Su Fei extended 4 fingers and said, "First, I'll give you 4,000 yuan. The customer who originally wanted to speak hesitated when they heard the number 4,000. What I wanted to say was stuck in my mouth, not spoken out. The price I offered is quite high. In a situation like yours, no matter where you go or who you are, you won't be able to offer half of my price. You should understand the meaning of my words." Su Fei is actually like pointing things out, telling him directly that I know this phone is not yours. This customer, of course, can also hear the meaning of the words. End of this chapter. Chapter 3. Republic of China. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 3. Republic of China. Watching him still hesitating. Su Fei said in a positive tone, "Once the system account lock is locked, the phone will activate the location function. This feature to prevent phone loss can be very powerful. The positioning error generally does not exceed 2 meters. It's really easy to find it back." Originally, Su Fei wanted to say more words to scare him. I didn't expect this customer to pick up their phone and leave. How did you leave? Did you scare him away just because you hit him? After this incident, Su Fei had no intention of guarding the store anymore. Lock the door directly, ride a small electric donkey, and head to the bathing center. I feel too uncomfortable in my heart, Su Fei must relax a bit. Soaking in the pool for half a day didn't relieve fatigue. Su Fei arrived at the resting room on the second floor again. Hello boss, I am technician number 8. It's my pleasure to serve you. Our services include shoulder and neck relaxation massage, 881 hours. Su Fei, lying on the bed, raised his hand to stop her from continuing to introduce the service content. Turning over, I glanced at technician number 8. Her facial features are upright, her skin is fair and beautiful, her long hair is flowing, and she has a pair of slender long legs. Visual inspection. 90, 60, 90, 55. Give me a whole body relaxation, 888 combo. Upon hearing the boss's words, technician number 8 smiled happily and said, "Okay, boss." Su Fei gently supported his waist with one hand and slowly emerged from the bathing center. Welcome boss to visit again. The welcoming staff at the door warmly bid farewell. Su Fei rode his little electric donkey and hurried home quickly. I was originally here to relax, but although I feel refreshed now, my body has been emptied. When you get home, first push the little electric donkey to the underground garage and plug in the charger to charge it. Go upstairs and just open the door with the key. A huge sense of drowsiness suddenly filled my mind. Coming again. With his previous experience, Su Fei knew that the reason for this situation was because he had to dream again. Struggling to close the door and strolled to my own small room. He plunged his head into the bed and instantly fell asleep. In the early period of the Republic of China, social unrest, warlords fighting, and people struggling to make ends meet. Only in some remote mountain villages can there be a rare peaceful life. Su Fei opened his eyes and suddenly sat up, looking around in confusion. Where is this? Wearing tattered linen clothes, with a straw mat underneath and a dilapidated earthen house. A few old furniture pieces were placed in the middle, covered with a thick layer of visible dust. Su Fei exclaimed, "Here we go again. The sequelae of last sleepwalking have not been completely eliminated yet. Get up and get out of bed, go to the door, reach out and push open the 2 doors that are already cracked and useless. Just listen to creak dong, the 2 rotten doors collapse directly to the ground." A huge amount of dust was raised. Pooh pooh pooh, Su Fei fanned his nose with his hand and spat out the dust that had penetrated his mouth. Quickly run outside the room. What caught the eye was a small courtyard overgrown with weeds, which had been abandoned for an unknown amount of time. I don't know where I dreamt of this time either. Su Fei left the small courtyard and went outside to check the surrounding environment. A vast wilderness. It should be autumn now, and the withered weeds have calves high. The abandoned courtyard that came out is located in the center of this wilderness. Looking around, the rest of the place is covered by the forest. Only from the left side can you vaguely see several towering mountains. Do we survive in the wilderness? What a joke. Su Fei looked at the sun above his head and guessed that it should be afternoon now. Up north and down south, left west and right east. Su Fei pointed south and then ran quickly. Passing through the wilderness, passing through a small forest, I encountered a river blocking my way. Ma Dan. Turning back, Su Fei headed north again towards the place where the courtyard was deserted. It's also walking through wilderness and small forests. However, this time there was no river blocking the way again. But I saw a winding path. This seems to be artificially created. It's okay, it's okay. Where there is a way, there are people. Walking along the path for an unknown distance, Su Fei felt like his legs were about to break. He felt like he had completed all the paths he had to take in his lifetime, but unfortunately he still didn't see anything. Strange. Did you go in the wrong direction? Looking up, it was already sunset. Su Fei felt that he couldn't walk down so recklessly anymore. Returning from the original path, before the sky completely darkened, I returned to the small abandoned courtyard where I had started. Ouch, I'm really exhausted. I didn't do anything all afternoon, I was walking. Su Fei, whose legs were a bit weak, lay back on the tattered grass mat. I originally wanted to just rest like this. But also considering, a wilderness, a dilapidated small courtyard. I think it's necessary to raise a fire. Not only can it provide warmth and lighting, but it can also dispel the fear in his heart. Looking at the last glimmer of light in the west, Su Fei brought some dry firewood. Because he didn't have any tools to start a fire, he could only drill into wood to start the fire. After a long period of unremitting efforts, Su Fei threw away the stick in his hand and kicked over the stack of firewood in front of him. Giving up, drilling wood to start a fire is all deceiving. Damn it, my hands are so bald that I don't even have a spark. Su Fei, who gave up struggling, lay back on the grass mat. That's it. His exhausted body made him fall asleep quickly. End of this chapter. Chapter 4. God will not hunger to death the blind sparrow. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 4. God will not hunger to death the blind sparrow early the next morning. The sky is just beginning to dawn. Su Fei woke up early. It's okay to scare yourself, isn't it? After self-deprecating, Su Fei came to the small path yesterday. Go in the opposite direction to yesterday and start moving forward. Hot-blooded men should strive for self-improvement, drink this bowl of hometown wine, and the brave will never return once they leave the rolling yellow river, the surging Yangtze River. Give me life, give me strength, let the blood dye the most beautiful flower red and sprinkle it on my chest. The red flag floats, the military horn rings. How can one stop being afraid when walking on a lonely path? Su Fei tells you the answer. It's singing military songs. After singing more than 10 military songs in a row, Su Fei finally arrived at the end of the path. On the top of the hill, looking out, there is a small mountain village not far away. There are about dozens of households in the small mountain village. The scattered wisps of green smoke made Su Fei particularly happy. People, they just can't leave the group. Walking briskly towards the small mountain village. Enter the small mountain village. Although this place may not be large in scale, the streets inside are quite lively. Apart from various shops on both sides of the road, there are also a large number of small vendors setting up stalls. Make the originally narrow road even narrower. Crowded in the crowds of people coming and going, Su Fei stopped at the entrance of a snack shop, his stomach growling with hunger. Looking at the various delicacies placed on the wooden board, touching the crumpled belly, unfortunately, there is not even a pocket on my body, let alone money. Su Fei swallowed his saliva. As the saying goes, the heavens will not starve the blind sparrow. As long as the mind does not slide, methods are always more difficult than difficulties. Stand under the eaves next to the snack shop. There is an open space here that can accommodate 3 or 2 people. Su Fei clapped his hands vigorously at the people walking on the street, attracting their attention. At the same time, he shouted loudly in his mouth. Listening to books, watching plays, and persuading others, one avenue is placed in the center. Good and evil will eventually be rewarded, and the right path in the world is the vicissitudes of life. 4 opening lines were shouted out, and indeed 3 or 2 people stood curiously in front of Su Fei. Speaking of which, Pangu opened the sky, and then Nuwa created immortals. And Yen and Huang fought by the Yellow River, gradually gaining popularity. First, Cangjie created characters and wrote about Hou shooting the sun, and then Jingwei spreading his wings. A fascinating mythological story, accompanied by Su Fei's strange rhythm, is narrated through a rap. Attracting more attention from passers-by, his footsteps stopped in front of him. However, the already crowded path is now directly blocked and difficult to move forward. Then many people blamed Su Fei. Let him get out of here quickly, making a lot of noise. Su Fei dared not provoke public anger, so he had to bow down and apologize with a smile, then plead for the reward from the person who stopped in front of him to watch. Unfortunately, most people just listen for fun. Seeing Su Fei begging for the reward, he dispersed in a panic. Fortunately, a few generous people left 3 melons and 2 dates for Su Fei to eat. Thank you all for your rewards. Once you have money, you can buy food to eat and no longer have to go hungry. Su Fei's face was filled with a smile as he was about to turn around and leave when the owner of a snack shop waved to him. Hi, brother, wait a moment. Su Fei turned around and looked at him, pointing his finger at himself in confusion and asked, "Are you calling me?" "Yes, it's you who called, come over here for a moment." Looking at the owner of the snack shop, he waved and let himself go. Su Fei walked into his shop with a smile on his face. "I don't know what the boss called me for, is there something?" he asked happily. The snack shop owner patted Su Fei's shoulder with his hand and then pointed at him, praising him, "Your performance just now was fantastic. What's your name?" Su Fei still smiled at him and replied, "Thank you very much, boss. My name is Su Fei." The snack shop owner continued, "I've been watching you perform on the ground from start to finish, and I really like it. So, aren't you going to change places? Why don't you just tell me in my small shop? Before leaving, I will reward you with a bite of food." Su Fei listened to his words and calculated in his heart. This snack shop owner, who asked himself to stay, probably wanted his performance to increase the popularity of his snack shop. Coincidentally, his environment here is also good, and he has many customers, so he can also ask for more rewards himself. And in the end, he will also give himself a portion to eat. So Su Fei agreed with satisfaction. "Then I really want to thank the boss a lot. However, boss, could you give me a stutter first? I have some money here, I'm really hungry." Looking at the copper plate of 3 melons and 2 dates handed out by Su Fei in his hand, the snack shop owner pushed it back and smiled, saying, "I'll treat you to this meal." Someone brought Su Fei a pancake and a bowl of hot vegetable soup. Just as Su Fei was flaunting his food in big gulps, the snack shop owner placed a table in the innermost position of the shop for him. Seeing Su Fei finish his meal, the snack shop owner patted his shoulder and encouraged him, "Speak up." Su Fei looked grateful and nodded. Sitting in front of the table, he took a sip of water to moisten his throat. Then he picked up the startled tree on the table and patted it. The loud voice attracts the attention of all customers living in the area. Being lascivious and promiscuous is not about enemies not gathering. Only for a promiscuous woman, it is difficult to protect the wife and children. Playing in front of one's eyes, scheming, and guilt filling behind one's back. Retribution starts from the beginning, with all evil and lust at the forefront. Therefore, using the media to engage in lewd and lewd behavior is a hook. A classic finale poem has attracted the applause of customers present. Okay. 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 Extend your hands and press down on the sound. Su Fei spoke up and said, "Speaking of you are repairing the sky," she dropped a colorful stone and landed in Dongxing Shenzhou. This divine stone absorbs the essence of the sun and the moon, produces 9 holes, and produces spirituality. The monkey is the monkey. After capturing the 7 fairies, they actually went to pick peaches. The bull demon king, a big water buffalo, actually gave birth to a red child who can breathe fire. Why is this? Su Fei is telling the modern online version of Journey to the West. The novel teaching methods of various Journey to the West have indeed received widespread applause. It also attracted many customers to the snack shop. In the end, even the seats in the store couldn't fit anymore, and many people were standing in the corner, listening to Su Fei telling stories. This made the snack shop owner who invited Su Fei happy and couldn't close his mouth. How many times did Su Fei say? Anticipate what will happen in the future, please listen to the next breakdown. The wealthy customer present took out the reward and asked him to continue speaking. I can't resist the enthusiasm of the audience and the urging of the snack shop owner. Keep talking until sunset. Because Su Fei is really dry-mouthed and almost unable to speak. Many customers reluctantly let him go and agreed to come tomorrow. Due to Su Fei's cessation of storytelling, the number of customers in the store instantly decreased by half. Su Feigong got up from the table with the reward and left. The snack shop owner happily picked up the tea and welcomed him. Ouch, little brother, it's really hard for you. Hurry up, drink a few more bowls of tea. End of this chapter. Chapter 5. Returning to the Wilderness Courtyard. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5. Returning to the Wilderness Courtyard. Su Fei gulped down a few bowls of tea. Boss, these customers are just too enthusiastic, he said hoarsely. Enthusiastic, I dare not come tomorrow. Upon hearing these words, the snack shop owner felt a bit flustered and quickly said, No, no, no. If you don't come tomorrow, those customers won't even demolish my small shop. Su Fei sighed and said helplessly, Boss, listen to my voice. If I say that again tomorrow, I might lose my voice the day after tomorrow. But the owner of the snack shop seems to have been prepared long ago. Taking out a small porcelain vase from his pocket, he proudly said to Su Fei, What do you think this is? Su Fei took the small porcelain bottle, opened the cap, and placed it in front of his nostrils to smell. A sense of coolness emanates from the nasal cavity, passes through the throat, and penetrates directly into the lungs. With a cheerful moan, curiously looking at the object in the bottle, I saw small black pills inside, the size of a nail cap. What is this? The snack shop owner explained to Su Fei with a smile, This is my ancestral medicine for clearing the throat. My ancestors used to walk through the alleys and shout, Sell goods. It's all thanks to it that you can always keep your voice bright. Take out a piece and put it in your mouth, give it a try. Upon hearing this, Su Fei took out a pill from the porcelain bottle, pinched it on his fingertips, and first licked it with his tongue. It's cool and refreshing, and after a taste, it's a bit sweet. I can't taste anything else, but with that strong mint fragrance, Su Fei can confirm that there is a large amount of mint in the formula of the pill. Put it in your mouth and hold it on your tongue. A refreshing feeling burst out in the mouth in an instant. The hot and dry feeling in my throat and eyes disappeared instantly, replaced by a cold and icy feeling. Ah, the extreme comfort made Su Fei let out a moan of pleasure. The snack shop owner looked at Su Fei with a satisfied expression and proudly said, How are you doing? My ancestral recipe is really useful, isn't it? Su Fei nodded fiercely in affirmation. The snack shop owner leaned over and picked up a wrapped package of food from a nearby table, handing it to Su Fei. Here, take it. Su Fei took it over with both hands and squeezed it slightly. Based on his intuition, he guessed that there should be 3 vegetable cakes he had eaten before inside. Peeling open a narrow slit and looking at it, I found not only that, but also a chicken claw inside. Boss, this. Watching Su Fei's puzzled expression, the snack shop owner thought he had seen meat and couldn't believe it. He smiled and said, I rewarded you, you don't need to thank me, you deserve it. Upon hearing these words, Su Fei smiled hypocritically to ease the awkward feeling at the moment. A chicken claw with only a little bit of meat, haven't you ever eaten meat as a man? Before yesterday, he ordered takeout and picked out all the meat in the dish. The green vegetables in Zhanqing are much more delicious than greasy meat. Thank you. I've already said it, no need to thank you. Under the farewell of the snack shop owner, Su Fei left his shop. Before leaving, he repeatedly instructed and agreed to come again tomorrow. Walking on the way back to the deserted courtyard, Su Fei held food in his left hand and a money bag in his right hand, which contained the reward he received for his storytelling today, totaling 23 copper coins. These 20.3 copper plates, whether they are too many or too few, are not a big deal. A copper plate can be exchanged for 2 vegetable cakes. Kai Bing Zi is a very generous dish, and it also carries a lot of hunger. Su Fei also didn't know what kind of grain was used to grind this vegetable cake, mix it with wild vegetables, and steam it out. Anyway, he ate one today and still doesn't feel hungry. Originally, Su Fei didn't want to return to that dilapidated small courtyard to live in. But I can't bear the embarrassment in my pocket. The 23 copper coins in my hand are not as affordable as a deserted courtyard in this small mountain village. As for the only inn in the village, Su Fei has gone. De Tong Pu, as soon as he opened the door, he was immediately persuaded to leave. Good guy, just like entering the dry toilet in my hometown, not only is the smell unbearable, but it's also really spicy to the eyes. Due to helplessness, Su Fei had to buy something and return to the wilderness courtyard. Hurry up slowly, I still didn't return to the deserted courtyard before it got dark, but it was also close. It was getting dark, and although the lantern Su Fei bought emitted a dim light, it could barely illuminate the road clearly. Warriors of the 3 kingdoms were brave, with Zhao Zilong as the first to be promoted and Changban Slope as a hero. And that Ida, roaring on the Dangyang Bridge. Walking alone at night is indeed a bit scary. Ordinary songs sung in the mouth are not effective and cannot dispel the fear in the heart. Su Fei had no choice but to sing the red song again. Build a new great wall with our flesh and blood. Braving the enemy's artillery fire, move forward. Sure enough, the release of March of the Volunteers instantly dispelled the darkness in Su Fei's heart. Due to the acceleration of my steps, I quickly returned to the location of the wilderness courtyard. Step through the overgrown weeds and enter a house that can barely shelter from the wind and rain. Gently wipe off the dust on the table, and Su Fei put down the things in his hand. Turning his head to look at the empty door frame, he decided to lift the door panel and block the large hole to prevent any wild beasts from entering at night. Due to the need to lift the door panel with both hands, Su Fei placed the lantern in his hand on the ground. With the faint light emitted by the lantern and the moonlight shining from the crescent moon in the sky. Be careful and grope to lift the left door panel first, barely leaning against the door frame. Just as Su Fei was about to lift the right door panel, I stumbled over something under my feet. With the force of throwing away the door panel, I stumbled a few steps and barely managed to avoid falling. Oh, hello, what is it? It's a bit like a wooden stick, but it seems a bit soft. Take the lantern and carefully explore it. I'll go under the light. In the grass, there was actually a human leg with blood on it. Step back a few steps, squat down, pick up a piece of wood, and guard your gaze ahead. After a few minutes, Su Fei boldly took a few steps forward, slowly approaching the bloody leg. After poking with the wood in his hand and finding no response, Su Fei boldly approached forward. The wooden stick cleared the grass and only then did it realize that it was a person lying there. Hand the lantern in his hand to his face and observe. A man in his 30s, with a scruffy beard on his face and some of his coiled hair scattered. I moved the lantern down and found that his chest was still slightly undulating. This person is not dead yet. Thinking about how to handle it in my heart. In Su Fei's mind, he began to imagine. Is this person a bad person? Will there be any trouble if I save him? What if he wakes up and doesn't recognize anyone? Will you falsely accuse me? End of this chapter. Chapter 6. A dead horse becomes a living horse doctor. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6. A dead horse becomes a living horse doctor in a moment. Su Fei's mind became increasingly chaotic as he thought about it. Various strange ideas have emerged. Oh my, I'm so annoyed. Finally, Su Fei shook his head irritably and turned to walk into the room. In his opinion, why do you think so much? This big night, the lights are dark and nothing can be done. Why don't we wait until tomorrow morning for everything to happen? Wait a moment. Suddenly, a faint voice reached Su Fei's ear. Suddenly turn around and take a look. Through the lantern in his hand, he found that the middle-aged man lying on the ground had actually woken up. Trembling, he lifted his hand and called for help from Su Fei. What should we do? Save or not save? Su Fei has once again become entangled. Seeing the other person's slightly raised arm fall, he fell into a coma again. Su Fei finally made up his mind. Save. The saying goes, saving a person's life is better than building a level 7 pagoda. How can an excellent young man do something that is beyond redemption? Put down the lantern in your hand first. Grasping the other person's arm, he struggled to drag him out of the grass. His physique and weight are a bit beyond Su Fei's imagination. Trying to drag him into the house again, the uneven threshold became the biggest obstacle. Hey, breathing heavily, Su Fei looked at the door panel lying on the side and had an idea in an instant. First, push the door panel to the man's side and align with him. Then roll the man from the side and place him on the door panel. Finally, holding on to one end of the door panel with both hands and vigorously kicking the ground, the whole body leaned back bit by bit, dragging the door panel with the man into the room. Oh my, I'm so tired. Wiping the sweat off his forehead, Su Fei picked up the water bag he had brought back from the small mountain village on the table. I took a few hard sips. Looking down at the unconscious man lying on the ground. Let me give you a drink too. Bending down, he opened his mouth with his hand and poured a little water into his mouth. The other person made a few swallowing movements at the throat. Then he coughed violently again. Cough cough cough. Under the light of the lantern, Su Fei noticed that the other person had opened their eyes again. The middle-aged man extended his tongue and licked the water on his lips. Then he looked at Su Fei squatting in front of him and whispered, "Thank you." Upon hearing the other person express gratitude to him, Su Fei felt a little relieved. Since the other person can say thank you, it shows that he still knows some manners. Even a bad person is a polite bad person. How do you feel? I see you've shed a lot of blood. Where did you get hurt? Upon hearing Su Fei's inquiry, the man hooked his left clothing corner with his finger. Su Fei understood and looked around with a lantern, revealing his shirt. Ho, there is a bloody patch under the clothes. The light is not good, and it's really hard to see where his wound is. Su Fei had to pick up the water bag and slowly pour out the water inside, rinsing off the blood stains on top first. Although there are many blood stains, they have dried and scabbed, and cannot be washed off. But Su Fei has already found the injured area. The wound is not very deep, but the area is a bit large, about the size of Su Fei's palm. The most crucial thing is that the layer of flesh and blood on top has already blurred out. Brother, what happened to your wound? Su Fei couldn't help but ask curiously. The man answered softly, I accidentally got bumped into by Black Lord. Black Lord. Su Fei muttered on this title for a moment, then suddenly thought of something and asked, You're talking about Black Lord, isn't it a wild boar? The man lying on the ground said, Be good. Su Fei couldn't help but extend his thumb and praise him, You're really amazing. As the saying goes, 1 pig, 2 bears, and 3 tigers. In the deep mountains and forests, the wild boar poses the greatest threat to humans. If this thing attacks people, it is much more powerful than tigers, wolves, and so on. The skin of a wild boar is thick, and the impact is very strong. The destructive power of a collision is no less than that of a small car. The killing power of wild boar collisions is really not just hyped up. The body size is slightly larger, with a weight of basically 300 kilograms. Plus a running speed of 40 to 70 kilometers per hour, as well as 2 sharp teeth. In addition, wild boars often rub and itch on trees, causing resin and various sediments on their skin. Thick fur, combined with the defensive ability of resin and sediment, is no less than simple armor. This man was hit by a wild boar and managed to escape. His life is really tough. Looking at his ulcerated wound, some parts were still oozing with blood. Su Fei felt that if he didn't treat his wound again and stop the bleeding, that man will definitely not survive tonight, and he will die from ischemia due to losing too much blood. Although Su Fei doesn't have any medication to help him with treatment. But he has an earthy formula that, if the theory is not wrong, should work. It's just using plant ash to cover the wound. One is that it can coagulate blood and prevent the wound from continuing to bleed. Secondly, plant ash contains abundant minerals and trace elements such as phosphorus and calcium, which belong to alkaline substances and can have anti-inflammatory and hemostatic effects. These knowledge are all from Su Fei's browsing of mobile phone videos when he is bored. Arriving at the door, I pulled up a large handful of hay in place. Return to the house, clean the ground first to prevent the flames from igniting other things later, and then burn down the house. Wrap the hay in a ball and light it on the lantern, instantly igniting a raging fire, illuminating the entire room. The fire comes quickly and goes quickly. In no time, a large clump of hay was burned out, leaving behind a clump of ash. Reaching out and grabbing a handful of plant ash, he arrived at the man's wound. Suspend your hand in the air, slowly rub it, and let the grass and wood ash in the palm of your hand fall evenly on the wound along the gap. What are you doing? Seeing Su Fei's strange movements, the man curiously asked. Su Fei finished scattering the grass and wood ash in his hand, and then grabbed another handful of grass and wood ash on the ground. While treating his wound, he replied, "Can I help you treat your injury? Is it useful?" Seeing that the other party was actually doubting him, Su Fei withdrew his hand that had helped him apply grass and wood ash and said with a smile, "I don't know either. I am a dead horse and a living horse doctor. You can choose not to let me treat you." How to say it? After listening to Su Fei's words, the man wisely closed his eyes and received treatment with peace of mind. When Su Fei applied grass and wood ash to his wound, it indeed immediately stopped bleeding. After patting the dust on his hands, Su Fei loudly said, "All right. After the treatment, it's up to your luck." After speaking, he ignored the man lying on the door panel. Returning to the bed with a straw mat on its own, I fell into a deep sleep. End of this chapter. Chapter 7. Flying Stones. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7. Flying Stones. The next morning, when Su Fei woke up, he immediately noticed that the man who had been injured yesterday was leaning against the door frame, looking up at the sky. Last night it was dark and I didn't see very clearly. At this moment, looking at this person again, he really looks like a tiger-backed bare waist, rough and savage. Oh my, sitting up, he stretched out comfortably. It seems that yesterday's treatment was still effective. Su Fei walked towards him while speaking. The man looked at Lu Fei and lowered his head slightly, expressing gratitude. "Thank you for saving me yesterday. May I ask the benefactor's surname and name?" The grace of saving lives must be remembered by our king's army, no matter what needs from Wang in the future. Su Fei reached out and interrupted his words, preventing him from continuing. "I met you outside, and that's a friend," he said. "Wang Jun, right? My name is Su Fei. I originally wanted to take out the food I brought back from yesterday on the table and share it with him. Unexpectedly, the 3 pieces of pancakes and a chicken paw that were wrapped yesterday are gone." Looking back at Wang Jun leaning against the door frame, the other person's face was full of shame and awkwardly responded to Su Fei, "I'm sorry, I ate all the food. I'm just too hungry. But don't worry, this kindness must be remembered by my Wang Jun going forward." Su Fei extended his hand again to interrupt his words. "Stop, stop, stop. Don't say anything more, I already know." He picked up a water bag and wanted to take a sip of water, but he didn't expect the water to be consumed by him. Su Fei couldn't bear it anymore. He looked at him with a resentful expression and questioned, "Have you finished drinking the water too? Don't you know how to leave me a bite?" Su Fei's words made Wang Jun even more ashamed. However, he immediately raised his head again and said earnestly to Su Fei, "I, Wang Jun, must remember this kindness in my heart. I, Wang Jun, must remember it in my heart." In unison, Su Fei and Wang Jun said the same thing. Upon hearing the other person say the same thing as himself, Wang Jun looked at him with some surprise. Su Fei looked at him with a helpless expression and said, "Big brother, don't you have anything else to say?" Wang Jun suddenly felt a bit at a loss, wanting to speak but not knowing what to say. A hesitant expression. "Ah," Su Fei sighed and walked out of the room, opening his arms to welcome the newborn son. "Ah," let out a loud shout to express your depressed emotions. I didn't expect his shout to startle a group of wild chickens in the courtyard. They flapped their wings and flew high into the air. Looking at the wild chicken flying in front of him, Su Fei exclaimed in surprise, "It's a wild chicken." As the words fell, an unknown object shot out from behind Su Fei. Just listen to the sound of "sure." Ha 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 ha, a wild chicken, flying the highest and largest in size, fell to the ground with a mournful cry. Su Fei turned his head in shock to look. I saw Wang Jun leaning against the door frame, smiling at him. Except for Su Fei, he is the only one left here. It is obvious that this wild chicken was shot by him. Extending his thumb to him, he sincerely exclaimed, "Amazing." Then he ran forward and picked up the fallen pheasant. Throw the body of the pheasant on the ground and carefully examine it. There is no other external injury to the body, only a clear mark of impact on the neck. Neck fracture, leading to death. Su Fei looked at Wang Jun leaning against the door frame and asked in confusion, "What did you use to knock it down?" Wang Jun casually touched the two stones next to him and shook them in the palm of his hand, saying, "That's it." Su Fei looked at his position and then looked at the spot where the wild chicken had fallen. Upon inspection, there was at least a dozen meters in the middle. Instantly ecstatic inside. This is a master. In an instant, the young man regained his brain and saved a peerless expert, gaining his inheritance and embarking on a journey to the pinnacle of his life. "Brother Wang," he approached him attentively and said with a smile, "Are you still hungry? That little thing, you must not have eaten enough yet. You sit still, I'll make you grilled chicken now. Bring some firewood and set it up as a fire pile." Due to having nothing on hand, Su Fei could only use the stupidest method to make roasted chicken. Find two stones and they collide with each other. After the stone shatters, the area where it breaks is sharper. In this way, cut open the belly of the wild chicken and extract the 5 internal organs inside. After that, there's no need to deal with it anymore. Bring 2 moist wooden sticks, tie them in the shape of a cross, and put them into the belly of the wild chicken to support it. Then, throw the entire furry pheasant into the fire and let the flames burn. Don't worry about the wild chicken meat being burnt and charred. Because there is a layer of chicken feathers outside. After being burned and carbonized in the fire, chicken feathers will adhere to the chicken skin, forming a protective layer. In this way, while the chicken inside is cooked, it also ensures that it will not be burnt by the fire. During the period when the wild chicken meat is cooked, Su Fei sat next to Wang Jun and began to talk to him. "Brother Wang, how old are you this year? Where do you live at home? What kind of people are there at home? Dot. Wang Jun, who grew up in the mountains since childhood, has always made a living by hunting. Although he looks rough, his heart is actually very simple." He answered all the questions asked by Su Fei seriously. Wang Jun is 21 years old this year and belongs to the ox family. "I live on the western mountainside. My mother left early, and there is also a father and a younger sister who is 3 years younger at home. In daily life, we make a living by hunting. Yesterday when I was out setting up traps and wild boars, I didn't expect to have an accident. The wild boar fell into a trap and was also caught by a rope. Just as Wang Jun approached and wanted to stab him with a long spear, the hemp rope that caught the wild boar suddenly broke. The crazy wild boar charged straight towards the king's army. Although he dodged in time, he was still scratched by a wild boar on his waist. Then he was chased by wild boars and escaped all the way here. Due to excessive bleeding from the wound, I fainted in the small courtyard. If it weren't for the lucky encounter with Su Fei and helping him treat his wound, then last night would be the time for Wang Jun's soul to return. Su Fei has figured out Wang Jun's personality, simple and honest. I didn't expect him to be only 20.1 years old, he looks really anxious. Next, we will ask him about his skills in hunting wild chickens. Wang Jun knows everything about the inquiries of the life-saving benefactor. You ask me, what are the methods of beating wild chickens? Hey, this is nothing. When I was a child in the woods, I liked to hit birds with stones, and over time, I developed this technique. Upon hearing Wang Jun's answer, Su Fei felt a bit disappointed. He thought it was some kind of martial arts skill, but he didn't expect it to be just practice makes perfect. However, this is also very impressive. Su Fei picked up a stone from the ground and humbly asked Wang Jun for advice. Seeing his benefactor being so polite to him, Wang Jun immediately imparted to him the experience he had accumulated over the years. End of this chapter. Chapter 8. Stone Throwing Rope. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8 Stone Throwing Rope. Firstly, learn the technique of pinching stones. Fix the thumb and ring finger on both ends of the stone, stabilize one side with the index and middle fingers, grip with moderate tightness, and keep the palms empty. Wang Jun was explaining while holding a stone in his hand as he demonstrated. Su Fei watched the learning carefully and followed suit with his hands. Pay attention to the area where you exert force, do not use your fingers to bounce or your forearm to swing, but use your wrist. Turning your wrist instantly generates explosive force. After explaining the essentials of the movements, Wang Jun began to demonstrate. I saw him with his eyes fixed on the front, his arms slightly raised, his fingertips gripping the stone, and his wrist quickly turning. Just listen to the sound of phew. The stone in his hand quickly flew out and hit a stone 10 meters away heavily in the distance. After Wang Jun finished demonstrating, Su Fei felt it was very simple and started to imitate and learn. Looking ahead, lift your hand slightly, pinch the stone with your hand, quickly rotate your wrist, and use explosive force to knock the stone out. I saw the stones shot by Su Fei, weakly flying 3 or 4 meters before falling to the ground. Wang Jun shook his head and said, "Wrong. Your movements are not right, and the stone thrown out is not in line with the timing of the force. I'll demonstrate it to you again." Su Fei observes more seriously. After Wang Jun's demonstration, Su Fei felt that he was capable again. Try again and strictly follow Wang Jun's teachings. Unexpectedly, the distance that the stone flew out this time was not as good as the last time. Wrong. Wang Jun asked Su Fei to extend his hand over. Using your fingers, point out a few force points on your wrist and say, "Relax," rotate at a fast speed, avoid stiffness in your forearm, and work flexibly with your wrist. Under the careful guidance of Wang Jun, Su Fei learned the technique of throwing stones more than 40 times. Wang Jun always thought that he was already slow enough to learn things. Today, when he met Su Fei, he finally understood what it meant to be blue above blue. If Su Fei can't learn anymore, Wang Jun may not have the patience to teach him this life-saving benefactor. Until Su Fei successfully demonstrated the technique of throwing stones, Wang Jun felt relieved and said, "Alright, benefactor, you have learned the essentials. Next, just practice diligently and become proficient." Upon hearing Wang Jun say that he needed to practice more, Su Fei raised his eyebrows slightly but didn't say anything. Pick up a few small stones from the ground, place them in the palm of your left hand, and shake them. Stare ahead at a stone about 5 meters away. Pinch a stone with your right hand and quickly throw it out. Smooth technique and perfect technique. The coordination between the stone's hand and wrist strength was noticed by Wang Jun, who nodded in satisfaction. However, Su Fei's subsequent actions directly shocked Wang Jun. After throwing the first stone, Su Fei's hand movements did not stop, and he continued to throw all the stones in his left palm. The techniques taught by Wang Jun were fully demonstrated by Su Fei. If it weren't for the other person's technique being taught by himself, Wang Jun would even suspect that he was playing with himself. That 100% technique doesn't seem like a beginner at all. How could Wang Jun know that this is a special ability that Su Fei possesses in his dream? Ability save. Dozens of attempts at the moment when Su Fei was perfectly successful, represented that he had successfully mastered the skill of flying stones. When Su Fei successfully demonstrated the technique of flying stones for the first time. Every time he performs better compared to the last time. However, Su Fei is quite dissatisfied with his performance. The action is correct, but the intensity and accuracy are still unsatisfactory. Among them, the most inadequate is the strength of the wrist. Looking at Wang Jun's strong arms, it's almost as thick as his thighs. Compare your own slender arms and legs. Thinking again, even if the stone in his hand hits the wild chicken, it will not cause any damage to it. Su Fei couldn't help but sigh with disappointment and said, "Sigh, it seems that he has learned this skill of throwing stones for nothing." Seeing that the benefactor had learned how to fly a stone and was still sighing, Wang Jun asked in surprise, "Why does the benefactor have a disappointed expression?" Su Fei placed his wrist next to Wang Jun's wrist and compared it. Helplessly, he said, "What's the use of learning this? Even if practiced well, it cannot change the defect of insufficient strength in the hands. Not to mention fighting wild chickens, it will be difficult to fight sparrows, quails, and the like in the future." After hearing Su Fei's complaint, Wang Jun not only did not comfort others, but also burst out laughing. Su Fei frowned slightly and looked at Wang Jun, feeling that he was too impolite. At this moment, he even laughed at himself. Wang Jun pulled out a small piece of hemp rope from his waist and handed it to Su Fei. This hemp rope is not long, and the middle part is flat. Su Fei looked at it in confusion and guessed with uncertainty, "What is this?" "The throwing rope." Wang Jun replied, "Throwing stones for rope. Your benefactor is right to say so. However, we all refer to it as dragging stone, or floating stone. It was a weapon used by the Qi family army to deal with Japanese pirates in the past. Now, as hunters, we go up the mountain to hunt birds and also use it. It has very low requirements for the user's arm strength, and even a child can unleash its maximum power." Su Fei nodded, fully agreeing with his statement. A slingshot is the act of placing a stone in the middle of a rope, grabbing both ends of the rope and swinging it in your hand. When the middle stone reaches its maximum speed, quickly release one end of the rope, and a strong centrifugal force will throw the middle stone out. Within 100 meters, its power is no less than that of ordinary bows and crossbows. However, the biggest flaw of the pitching rope is that it cannot achieve precise strikes, which means it is difficult to control the accuracy of the head. So in ancient times, when it was used on the battlefield, thousands or even hundreds of people formed a scale of simultaneous deployment. However, the hunters were hunting birds in the forest, only 7 or 8 meters away. As long as you accumulate rich experience over the years, it is not a problem to play wherever you want. Su Fei placed the throwing rope in his hand and spun it a few times, very satisfied. Wang Jun spoke up and said, "Since my benefactor knows this thing, I don't need to introduce it further. There's not much skill in this thing, practice makes perfect. At the most appropriate time, loosen one end of the rope. Practice more and I believe you will soon master the key." Su Fei picked up a stone from the ground and placed it in the middle of the throwing rope. He grabbed both ends of the rope and began to rotate his wrist. After turning the throwing rope 7 or 8 times, I felt that the speed was enough, so I released one end of the rope. Let's go. The stone shot out quickly and shot out several tens of meters away. Enough strength, but the direction is a bit off. It actually flew in the opposite direction to the target that Su Fei aimed at. Huh, this thing is really hard to control. Su Fei smiled awkwardly. End of this chapter. Chapter 9. Ma Sanyi. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9. Ma Sanyi. Su Fei kept playing with the slingshot in his hand as the stones around him decreased. His accuracy also grew higher and higher. Although precise strikes are not yet possible, at the very least they are fired in the direction of the target. Benefactor, the chicken is ready. The wild chicken roasted on the fire has already emitted a strong burnt smell. Su Fei, who was playing hard, didn't feel anything at all. Wang Jun struggled to move his body, took the wild chicken out of the fire, and shouted at Su Fei. Su Fei finally regained his senses and noticed that Wang Jun had crawled over at some point. He quickly stepped forward and helped him, saying, "If your body is not convenient, don't move around. Let me do it." Helping Wang Jun back and leaning back against the door frame, Su Fei began to play with the black charcoal like pheasant. Scraping off the dark layer above, the exposed chicken is still a burnt yellow. Tear open the whole chicken, and the innermost meat is snow-white. Su Fei tore the clean chicken into strips. He tasted a few first and couldn't help but nod. It's really disgusting. It's dry, with a burnt smell. Hand the chicken in his hand to Wang Jun and say, "You eat it." Wang Jun, on the other hand, took it over with a happy expression on his face. He ate the seafood recklessly and swallowed it after only a few bites. "Is it delicious?" Su Fei looked at him eating so happily and asked in confusion. Wang Jun nodded and said, "Not bad, it would be even better if we sprinkle some salt. However, the pancakes I had in the morning are still not as delicious." Speaking, a lingering expression appeared on his face. After hearing this, Su Fei kept roast in his heart. Has this guy never eaten anything good? Just those two things. If it weren't for being hungry and anxious, I wouldn't even give them to my mouth. Speaking of vegetable cakes, Su Fei suddenly thought of a snack shop. He has made an appointment with the boss to go storytelling today. At this time, the sun rises high and it's already noon. It's broken, it's going to be late. Su Fei is not worried about being late, he is afraid that it will delay his earnings. Now he can be said to be one poor and two poor. He has finally found a livelihood, but it cannot be stopped. Wang Jun, right. Hello, rest well. I have something to do now, come back tonight. Speaking without listening to what Wang Jun said, Su Fei hurriedly ran out of the yard. When he arrived at the small mountain village panting heavily as soon as I entered the street, I saw from afar the owner of a snack shop standing at the door, looking left and right, anxiously waiting for someone. "Hi, boss. Raise your hand and greet him." The snack shop owner saw Su Fei as if he had seen a savior and rushed straight to him, pulling him towards the shop. "My little ancestor, you have calculated it. If you don't come today, I'll definitely die." Looking at his panicked expression, Su Fei asked in confusion, "What's wrong? Isn't it just that you're late? Is it necessary to make such a fuss?" "Ouch!" the snack shop owner cried out, "Do you know who is waiting for you in the shop today?" "Who is it?" "Master Ma. Ma Sanyi, who is it?" The snack shop owner explained to Su Fei, "You don't even know Mr. Ma. He is the boss of our Magia village." Su Fei furrowed his brows and said, "One bully. A bully." "Shoo!" The snack shop owner listened and quickly covered Su Fei's mouth, whispering, "Don't talk nonsense, be careful not to let trouble come out of your mouth." Su Fei quickly nodded before releasing his hand. Ma San is the third son of the village chief's family. He is straightforward and dedicated to fighting against injustice. So everyone calls him Ma Sanyi. Su Fei chuckled and said, so why are you afraid of him? You don't understand, although this person has a good personality and is straightforward, he has no brain. As long as it is something he believes, even if it is wrong, he must treat it as right. After listening to the explanation, Su Fei nodded and said, I know, it's what we call a silly guy. Stupid guy, one track, no brain. I enjoy doing good things, but in the end, I often end up doing things very well. The snack shop owner nodded and said, I don't know where the owner heard about you. He ran to the shop early in the morning and insisted on hearing your story. And since you haven't come yet, I was thinking of persuading him to come back tomorrow. I didn't expect his jokes to come up, he insisted on waiting for you. What else did you say? I deliberately stopped him from seeing you. I'm not unjustified. He said he couldn't wait for you today, so he demolished my small shop. Upon hearing these words, Su Fei turned around and was about to leave. The snack shop owner quickly grabbed him and said, where are you going? Su Fei grinned and said, you're sitting in the store, such an unreasonable person. How dare I go? What if there's something I don't say well and this Ma Senyi thinks I'm exaggerating? For this kind of person, it's better for me to stay away. I'm not giving myself the feeling of being uncomfortable. Let's go, come back tomorrow. The small shop owner held on to Su Fei and kept saying, don't. What should I do if you leave? Cold salad. Su Fei hates dealing with people like Ma Senyi the most in his life. Brave and self-righteous. I can't afford to provoke you, can I avoid it? Brother. Listen to me. Although the snack shop owner let go of his hand, he began to lure Su Fei with profit again. Although Ma Sanyi is unreasonable, he is not a bad person either. Moreover, he is very generous in giving rewards to his subordinates. As long as you say it well, the bounty will never be lower than this amount. The snack shop owner extended a finger. Su Fei guessed, 10 copper plates. A silver dollar. After hearing this, Su Fei secretly complained to himself. This is a black sheep. Have you heard too many stories about the heroes of Liangshan and brought yourself into it, treating money like dirt? Let's go and meet him. Interest moves people's hearts. Even if Su Fei doesn't like this person, he can't help but receive such a generous reward. Led by the owner of the snack shop with a happy eyebrow, Su Fei entered the shop. Yesterday at the place where he was talking, there was a little girl standing on it singing a little song. Although dressed plainly and patched up everywhere, there is a hint of elegance between the eyebrows. There is a skinny old man behind her, playing the 2 strings to accompany her. A strong man sitting at the front, leaning on a chair with his upper body and legs crossed on the table. Su Fei guessed that he should be the Ma Senyi mentioned by the boss. What is this? The snack shop owner explained to Su Fei, hey, didn't you come? I'll just pick someone on the street to sing a little song and give Ma San a boost. You wait, I'll let them down now. With a wave of her hand, the singing girl saw it and stopped, coming to the side of the snack shop owner. Why did it stop? Ma Sanyi, who was listening to the music with his eyes closed, shouted out when he heard nothing. The snack shop owner responded loudly, Third Master, here comes the storyteller. Yeah, then why don't you let him come up and tell me a story quickly? He's so silly. Okay. The snack shop owner pushed Su Fei to get up quickly. Su Fei came to the table and sat down steadily, clearing his throat first. Pick up the startled tree on the table and give it a heavy pat. Pop, end of this chapter. Chapter 10. Lotus Picking Girl. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10. Lotus Picking Girl. The rolling Yangtze River flows eastward. The waves have washed away, how many heroes? Stop, Su Fei had just uttered a sentence when he was interrupted by Master Ma. Sanyi, do you have any questions? Su Fei asked. Ma Sanyi put down his legs that were curled up on the table and said, "It seems like you didn't say that yesterday, did you?" Su Fei grinned and explained, "Third master, you didn't come yesterday. I continued what I said yesterday, afraid you wouldn't understand, so I specially replaced it for you." "Don't," Ma Sanyi waved his hand and said, "don't replace it with a new one, just keep talking about yesterday. Don't let me alone delay everyone's interest. I don't like others giving me special treatment just to flatter me." Su Fei smiled awkwardly upon hearing this. "Since Third Master said that, let me continue with what I said yesterday. The book continues from the previous text." Unexpectedly, Su Fei had already made changes, and Ma Sanyi still didn't let him go. He mocked and said, "I don't like you, snake and rat on both ends. Doing things is not at all enjoyable. Do whatever I ask you to do, you have no position at all." Listening to his incessant chatter, Su Fei kept holding back and said, "Damn it, if it weren't for not being able to beat you, I would have given you a big bang long ago." After talking for a while, Mr. Ma finally stopped. Su Fei accompanied his smiling face and asked, "Third Master, do I still say that you hate me so much? Speak up. I've been waiting for you for half a day, isn't that why I came to listen to your storytelling?" Ma Sanyi had a knowing and questioning expression on his face, and Su Fei really wanted to slap the startled wood on his hand. Take a deep breath. The book continues from the previous text. After speaking for over an hour, Su Fei disregarded the audience's plea to stay and directly predicted the future. Please listen to the next breakdown. Su Fei's words are indeed good, and Ma Sanyi cannot find any faults. Reward. A silver dollar was thrown on the table. Su Fei collected the money and said, "Thank you for your reward, Third Master." After receiving 13 consecutive bounties of copper coins, Su Fei turned around and left without looking back. At the door, the snack shop owner stopped him and said, "Brother, you're so good. Why don't you say more?" Su Fei smiled bitterly and said, "Boss, there is such a leader sitting downstairs. What do you want me to say?" I fully understand Su Fei's feelings, and the snack shop owner won't say anything more. Farewell. Su Fei was about to leave when he found two people squatting in the corner of the door wall. "Ha! Isn't this the girl who sang a tune in the shop and the old man who played the strings before he came? Boss, what's going on between these two people?" With a puzzled question, the snack shop owner impatiently said, "Hey, two unreasonable people want to ask me for money before they finish singing. I'm really crazy about money, you're still relying on me and not leaving." Upon hearing these words, Su Fei furrowed his brow. This boss is not a good person either. How could you not give someone money for inviting them to sing, even if you interrupted them? How much does it cost for them to sing music? 2 copper plates. Su Fei heard this price and felt it was really cheap. Take out 2 copper coins casually and place them in front of the singing girl. Unexpectedly, the old man beside him spoke up and said, "Thank you very much, but we can't take this money." Su Fei asked, "Why?" The old man remained silent, and the little girl beside her looked at Su Fei and answered in her crisp voice, "Grandpa said, I don't accept food from humble people." Upon hearing her answer, Su Fei stood in awe and said, "Good guy, that's all. These grandsons are not ordinary people." The snack shop owner was unhappy and retorted, "What kind of thing, they kind enough to give you money, you?" Su Fei reached out to interrupt his words and sent him back to the store. Holding 2 won in his hand, Su Fei squatted in front of the little girl and smiled, "What's your name?" "My name is Tsilian." Listening to her answer, Su Fei recited, "You can pick Lotus in Jiangnan, Lotus leaves in Hotan Tian." What a beautiful name. The little girl stared at Su Fei with watery big eyes and asked, "How do you know the origin of my name?" The old man holding the 2-string chain on the side also glanced at Su Fei. Su Fei didn't answer, instead he looked at a small cloth bag on Tsilian's waist, which was only the size of a palm and was made up of 7 or 8 pieces of cloth pieced together. "What a beautiful little cloth bag, did you make it yourself?" The lotus-picking girl picked up the broken cloth bag with a smile and said, "Yes, I made it myself." "It's pretty, isn't it?" Su Fei nodded and said, "It's very beautiful. Can you take it down and show it to me?" Picking Lotus, he immediately took off the broken cloth bag and placed it in Su Fei's hand, saying, "Oh, look." Su Fei held a broken cloth bag and flipped through it, looking around. There was nothing inside, and then he put it into his own pocket. "How can you take my things?" Seeing her belongings taken away by Su Fei, Cilian angrily reached out and begged, "Give them back to me." Su Fei smiled and took out 10 copper coins and put them in her hand. "I really like them, so I bought them." Looking at the 10 copper coins in her hand, the lotus-picking girl was at a loss and turned her head to look at her grandfather. "What's your name?" Listening to the old man's inquiry, Su Fei stood up without answering and left with a smile. "Grandpa. Take it, this is what you got from selling things." With Grandpa's consent, Cilian excitedly put away the money and thought to herself. "There's no need to go hungry these days. If you have money, you can go shopping everywhere. Salt, 5 copper coins per kilogram, Su Fei bought 2 kilograms. The price of rice is a bit ridiculous. It costs 10 copper coins per kilogram, and Su Fei was not willing to buy it, so he bought 10 vegetable cakes for only 5 copper coins. Wang Jun has been injured, bring him some medicine. It's too expensive and dark to see at night. I bought some lamp oil and only got a copper plate. Su Fei bought a lot of things before returning to the deserted courtyard. But when he returned, there was no trace of Wang Jun. "Where are you going?" "I guess I went home." Su Fei looked at the trauma medicine he had bought, which cost 3 yuan per pack, and felt regretful. "If I had known he was leaving, I wouldn't have wasted this money. In the future, this will be my own home." Looking at the dilapidated small yard, although Su Fei didn't have the ability to renovate it, weeding and cleaning were still possible. Holding the newly purchased tools, Su Fei, who had never done heavy work, was already exhausted and half dead just by removing the weeds in the courtyard. "No, we need to take a break. Go back inside and lie down as soon as you close and open your eyes, it gets dark. I'm really too difficult." In the dark, he lit the oil lamp, casually dealt with some food, drank some water, and then tilted his head to sleep. The next day, the sky was just beginning to dawn. Su Fei was awakened by the excitement of the tumbling river and sea in his stomach. "I ran to the corner of the wall outside the door with my stomach in my hands, trying to make a big splash, but it was blocked. This vegetable cake can't be eaten. When I came back, my feet were a bit weak. There hasn't been any oil or water these days, and he can't bear the scraping on his stomach." On the stone of the clay jar rack, some hot water was burned. After drinking it, Su Fei's uncomfortable stomach finally eased. No, life can't just go on like this. Su Fei believes that it is necessary to take immediate action to make his life better. End of this chapter.